Alright, so we got a couple more lessons till we can actually get into the whole jQuery stuff. But I gotta teach you a couple more things before we can actually get into the cool stuff. So, one of the things I need to teach you is functions. And so, well, what is a function? A function is something like a block of code that that you can call, and it runs the code anytime you want. So probably the easiest way to explain it is to actually show you. So to make a function, we're going to use the word function, and we need to give this function a name. And basically, what we want to do is make it show oranges. So we'll do show oranges. Yeah. And we'll do put in the parentheses, because you have to have parentheses, because that's a rule for functions. You can't have a function without the parentheses. That's just the rule. You got to follow it, or else you'll lose. So then we want to, what do we want to do? Well, we want to show oranges. So we'll do document dot write. I'm showing you my oranges. Okay. Now let's just run this and see what happens. I mean, we've made our function. It's, something's got to happen, right? Something's got to happen. What's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing's going to happen. Do you know why? Because all we did was we just said, here's a function. And it's not going to do anything because JavaScript's like, oh, well, here's a function, but it's not going to do anything because you didn't call the function. A function is not going to run unless it's called. You got to call the function. So let's call the function. And to call the function, you just say the name of the function. It's like, magic. You just say the word and it happens. Show oranges. Okay? Don't forget the parentheses. And you also have to have the semicolon. Okay? So now we're saying that this is a function that we want to, this is our function. And then we want to run the function. Okay? So I'm showing you my oranges. And what's the whole point of showing oranges? I mean, couldn't I have just done this? Let me just. Oh, by the way, commenting. You can you can hide a certain line of code by doing 2 forward slashes or by doing the number sign. Actually, that doesn't seem to work. I usually just do this because I like how it looks. But anyway, instead of doing, a function that just does this one thing, couldn't you just do this? Yeah, you could. You could. And it would work. But what if your function had tons and tons of lines of code like this? Okay? It does all sorts of fun stuff. And in this example, it just does this a lot of times. But let's just say it does all sorts of different things. Okay? Well, what happens if every time you wanted to do that certain thing, you'd be like, oh, I needed this thing. So you put all that code in there, and it does the thing. Okay? Well, let's say you have to do that certain thing again in your code. Oh, I gotta put all this code in, and you gotta do it again. All that code all over again. Well, wouldn't it be a lot easier if you just did the code just one time, and then every time you wanted to run that certain piece of code, you could just call a function like this. See? And now, if you wanted to do that thing like a bunch of times, you could just call the function a bunch of times. Isn't that a lot cleaner? Isn't that easier? And guess what? If something changes in your code, like let's say in here we want to show apples. Before, we had to change all those lines of code. But now, We just change one thing in our function, and it affects all the other times that we're calling this. See, watch, we're going to call it all that time. See, it did it all tons of times. Okay, that's functions. But that's not all. There's one more thing, and it's called freaking parameters. That's right. Alright, so, yeah. Inside the parentheses, where you put your parameters. And parameters are basically placeholders for things you want to pass into your function. So, for example, let's say we want to show a certain number of oranges. Well, we'll make a, we'll just do num oranges. And this is basically just acting as a variable, even though it isn't a variable technically. That's just, it works kind of like one. So in here, we're just going to, let's see here. I'm showing you, just get rid of this. Let's say we want to, well, first I need to show you how to concatenate things. And what concatenating does is it just adds different parts of stuff together. Like I couldn't do num oranges because JavaScript thinks that this is part of the string. It doesn't know to look up here, so you have to put it outside the quotation marks. Okay. But to put this and this together, you have to concatenate it, and you do that with the plus sign. Okay. And we'll just do another plus sign. We'll put a space here. And I'm showing you oranges. Okay, this will make sense in a second. So in the show oranges, we're going to show 5 oranges. Okay, watch this. Our function, we're passing through 5. Okay. So that 5 is going into our function, and it's saying, hey, right now, num oranges is equal to 5, because that's what we said when we called our function. So now, it works kind of like a variable. It's going to say, I'm showing you 5 oranges, because that's what this is equal to right now for this variable. I mean, for this function. So let's run the code. I'm showing you 5 oranges. Let's run it again. And let's show 20 oranges, because we got a bunch of them to show. So the first time we showed 5. The second time we showed 20. I'm showing you 5 oranges. I'm showing you 20 oranges. We can do multiple parameters by separating them by a comma. So we can do fruit, and we can do this plus fruit. Yeah. Okay. So let's say we wanted to show 5 apples and 20 grapes. I'm showing you 5 apples. I'm showing you 20 grapes. See what happened? Do you see what just happened? We passed in 5 as the first parameter, and it is assigned to num oranges. Our second parameter is apples, and it is assigned to the fruit variable. Or not necessarily fruit variable, but fruit parameter. And then it's, this document right is looking up here for that, and looking at fruit, and, see how this works? See? Does this make sense? I hope it does. And notice that for 5, I didn't have to put quotation marks, because, for numbers you don't really have to do quotation marks, but for strings and stuff, you have to put quotation marks, so notice that. See how that works? So that is functions in a nutshell.